Chocolate is a derivative of the fruit of the cocoa tree. It is made with the seeds of this tree, which are astringent and quite bitter. Chocolate is an intense, delicious and versatile product. The two most popular types are dark and milk chocolate. Chocolate owes its own existence to the cocoa seed. Ancient civilizations in Mexico, Central America and South America cultivated cocoa to make drinks. But it was not until 1847 when a company invented solid chocolate. It is the food obtained by mixing sugar with two products derived from cocoa seeds. Cocoa mass and cocoa butter is the most popular and consumed sweet in the world in its various forms, versions and preparations. Chocolate bar is one of the foods that is liked by both adults and children alike. This is how we traditionally know one of the most desirable, even addictive foods for some. Chocolate started out as a drink that the Maya and Aztecs recognized as a gift from their gods, and was also used as a currency for bartering goods. Cristobal Colon was the first European to try it. The cocoa plant only grows in the tropics. For this reason, the origin of the raw material of chocolate comes from the countries located in these areas of the planet, characterized by a warm and humid environment that favors its growth. Dark chocolate is a type of chocolate that has a higher concentration of cocoa butter and less milk. It is possible to prepare it without any milk, so it's perfect for people who cannot consume dairy products. The world consumes around 3.6 million tons of cocoa per year, a figure that has an average annual growth of 2.1%, according to data from the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador stand out in cocoa production, countries not only dedicated to the cultivation of the plant, but also to its processing. Before becoming a tablet in powders to chocolate milk, it plays in the coverage of the best desserts. Cocoa undergoes a very long procedure and needs the work of dozens of hands for its cultivation. The cocoa tree, although it is fast-growing, takes between 4 and 5 years to bear its first fruits, so producers spend a lot of time caring for their crops without receiving any benefit in return. Cocoa fruits must be collected manually and carefully so as not to damage the stem that connects each fruit to the tree. If a curved knife is used to pick them from the stem, it will remain intact and they will be able to continue growing more. Between 20 and 30 fruits grow on each tree each year, and the annual harvest of a tree provides approximately 450 grams of chocolate. There are between 30 and 5 seeds in each fruit, and these are responsible for the production of the chocolate that we all love so much. It is difficult to imagine this looking at its natural appearance. Since it was discovered in Central America more than 3,000 years ago, everyone has taken a liking to chocolate. Although not everyone tastes it the same. Just like coffee, tea and wine, the land, climate and production process affects its final flavor. The cocoa tree only grows in these humid and hot highlands, 1,000 kilometers from the equator. Here in the Malaysian cocoa plantation, they cultivate more than 100 hectares of cocoa per year. First, the trees must be planted. The small seeds are planted in bags filled with coarse and humid soil. In a few days, the seeds start to sprout, and after 4 weeks, the plant reaches 30 centimeters. Although it will still take 3 years for them to become robust trees and start bearing fruit. After having waited so long, the last thing you want is for a pesky insect to ruin this valuable fruit. That's why they protect each seed with plastic. Gathering the fruit is quite a challenge. They don't fall from the trees but must be cut one by one in more than 35 degrees under the sun. The work requires double effort to collect 1,500 cocoa pods a day. Once stacked, they are transported to their plantation facilities to be processed. Their seeds were used as a currency, and with them you could buy a tomato or a pumpkin. To master its states, it is left to ferment in vats for 6 days. This way the bitterness is softened, and the essential aromas of cocoa are released through the fermentation of cocoa. What we get is the first approximation both in aroma and flavor to chocolate itself. After a suitable fermentation process, the fruits are dried and separated, since only the best quality ones will be sent for final processing. They are spread in the sun so that the skin dries and falls. Now, what was pure and dark grain is ready to be turned into chocolate, but not without first going through the factory. Every year 65,000 tons of cocoa are distributed from Malaysia, Indonesia and Africa. Millions of 65-kilo sacks like these arrive, which are classified and piled up in this large warehouse. This factory makes chocolate in various forms and sells it to companies that make different products, such as cocoa powder or cocoa butter. Most of the seeds that arrive here come from West Africa, which grows 70% of all plantations. A conveyor belt moves the seeds through a cleaning system consisting of a series of sieves that filter out twigs, stones, and other waste. The next step is a micronizer, a rotating drum that heats the cocoa seeds to shell them. Then they enter a machine called a blower, which will remove the shell. Inside, the seeds are dragged by filters that remove the large pieces of shell. By removing the shell, the inner part of the seed, called gruels, is exposed. The factory will roast the seeds to increase their flavor. More than 50% of the seed is fat. This part is cocoa butter. To prepare chocolate, processed gruels, cocoa butter and sugar are combined. And before it's going to be manufactured milk chocolate, powdered milk is added. First, they process the seeds by grinding. Heat and friction activate the cocoa butter, producing pure liquid chocolate called chocolate liquor. They incorporate other ingredients in different portions, depending on what type of chocolate is being made. For example, dark chocolate needs more chocolate liquor but not powdered milk, and the recipe for sugar-free chocolate obviously does not contain sugar. A mixer blends the ingredients until they reach a very thick, doughed consistency. The taste is good, but the texture needs to be softened. To do this, the chocolate is transferred to a refining machine, passing through a set of 5 cylinders. This reduces the size of the particles so that in a matter of minutes, the chocolate comes out of the refiner in the form of a fine, dry powder. But now it needs to be liquefied again, so the next step will be a screw machine. Friction and heat reactivate the cocoa butter, returning the powder to a liquid state. At this point, more butter is added, enough to reduce the viscosity to the desired thickness. To make chocolate chips, for example, a different thickness is needed than a fine coating. For the chips, the screw machine supplies a machine called a drop depositor. This deposit drops on a belt depending on the size of the nozzles. Chocolate chips of various sizes and shapes can be produced. The chips, still hot and soft, enter a cooling tunnel and move inside it for about 5 minutes, passing through several temperature zones ranging from 10 to 15 degrees. When they come out of the tunnel, they have already cooled and hardened. Then a conveyor belt passes them through a metal detector, a standard food safety measure. The factory also produces 4.5 kilo tablets of bulk chocolate. A depositing machine fills the plastic molds in the shapes of tablets. Then the conveyor belt takes them to a lifting system that moves them to a cold room for about 2 hours. This constant movement guarantees air circulation, which helps in the cooling process. As it cools, the chocolate contracts slightly, so the tablets come out of the molds easily. For chocolate to have such a good appearance as well as a rich flavor, the factory cools and then heats chocolate before depositing it. This process, called tempering, stimulates the growth of more stable cocoa butter crystals and makes chocolate look smooth, shining, and appealing. In this way, the factory produces millions of chocolate bars so that no one misses out on tasting its wonderful flavor and distributes it to supermarkets around the world.